As a child of the 1980s, nothing strikes a chord within me quite like a classic animated Disney film. I loved watching them on VHS at home as a kid, and I remember my grandmother taking my cousin and I to see Beauty and the Beast on opening day, only to then take us to Kmart to buy the soundtrack. It's a core memory I will carry with me forever. All that being said, I'm a pretty easy sell when you're comparing yourself to such things, which is precisely why Sweet Carole had potential classic written all over it. Developed by Little Sewing Machine, a studio led by Remothered creator Chris Darnill, whose involvement is made immediately clear if you're familiar with his previous work. Even if these two games look nothing alike, the dark and spooky tone is unmistakable. Instead of a 3D survival horror game, Sweet Carole is a 2D-ish platformer filled with puzzles, hidden secrets, and things trying to kill you. And it's all presented in the beautiful hand-drawn style of classic House of Mouse. Despite being entranced by its aesthetic, however, I'm still not sure whether Sweet Carole sticks the landing as a bona fide horror experience.
A haunting fairy tale world.
I would be remiss to not begin with the game's visuals. They're a sight to behold. The landscapes are drawn with such intricate detail that it's a shame I can't do more within them, because many of the backgrounds feel like I could step right into them. Instead, you are often restricted to a single plane of existence, while certain spots in the background can serve as temporary hiding spots when monsters are abound. Sweet Carole is set sometime in the early 1900s and follows a young orphan girl called Lana, who sets out to find out what happened to her runaway friend Carole. In doing so, she falls into a world of mysticism that sees her jumping back and forth in time, turning into a rabbit, running from mysterious monsters, making new allies like the absolutely delightful Mr. Baessie, and being hunted by a monstrous-looking man in a cylindrical hat named Mr. Kine. That might sound like a lot, but Sweet Carole basically boils down to a series of gigantic escape rooms. Most of the story's chapters are set in Bunny Hall, the creepy orphanage where Lana lives. However, you visit the orphanage in different realities. Sometimes you'll be in Lana's present day. Other times you'll find yourself in a dark fantasy world filled with some seriously creepy imagery and creatures. Information you learn from tasks you complete helps to propel you through the various chapters. Sometimes you'll hit a switch in one room that unlocks something 3 rooms down on another floor. Other times, you'll move something in your world in order to use it in the fantasy reality.
Does it play as well as it looks and sounds?
Sweet Carole's biggest drawback is its mediocre controls, so much so that even the act of walking can be a chore. While walking normally is easy enough, so much of experience plays out across different floors in a singular massive building. That means lots of staircases that require such specific timing to climb that the controls only make it harder to capitalize on. It simply doesn't feel good, especially when you're doing it repeatedly throughout the game. This is plenty annoying on its own, but the situation is only made more frustrating by how slowly your character moves alongside the inability to change direction in the middle of such actions. A similar thing often happens if I don't come to a full stop before activating whatever item I'm walking up to. It's as if the game is built for a highly refined control scheme that hasn't been implemented. Note, I also had the game crash on me 3 separate times, all under different circumstances.
Creating your own Disney fairy tale is near impossible to do.
I can't help but marvel at the work Little Sewing Machine has put into making Sweet Carole look so visually stunning, yet familiar to anyone who grew up with classic Disney animation. In particular, it reminded me of the Black Cauldron and its execution of hauntingly unsettling beauty. Sadly, there are some artistic areas in which the game can fall short. Let's start with the voice acting. Don't get me wrong, it's far from awful, but it's far from the high caliber you'd expect from the animated features it takes inspiration from. Lana often feels one note as a character, while so many of the villains sound like a variety of generic loud noises cobbled together. Even the secondary characters you meet are largely forgettable because they don't have unique personalities, like, say, the dwarves in Snow White, the dishes in Beauty and the Beast, or even Winnie the Pooh's crew. Instead, they're vaguely British caricatures with nothing to distinguish them by. In fact, at one point, a chapter is filled with faceless people. They too sound like vaguely British caricatures. There's also an issue with dialogue syncing with mouth movements on characters. While this is far more forgiving in a hand-drawn 2D setting, likening yourself to some of the most iconic animated films of all time means you have to deliver on your emulation. It's a flaw I couldn't help but notice in every single cutscene, regardless of how good everything else looked.
But about the actual gameplay.
The puzzles in Sweet Carole range from running around compelling environments, piecing together mysteries, to teasers so tedious I needed to take breaks lest I get frustrated. This isn't held by the distinct lack of a hint system that so many other games of this ilk have nowadays. Once the tutorials are over, you're on your own. At least 3 different times, I found myself bogged down in a puzzle that I simply couldn't find the next step in, even after spending over an hour exploring and experimenting. In some instances, I could even see the next step, but it took so long to figure out how to get there. While I was able to eventually overcome them, I didn't feel victorious for figuring out a needlessly difficult puzzle that allows me to reach a slightly higher platform. This would all be solved by a simple hints option for players who are dying to see how the game plays out, even if they don't have time to run through an entire trial and error process for a puzzle. It's made all the more frustrating when you do that only to find out the answer was sort of hidden in the design of a room you're in. Again, that's something that could be introduced post-release, and I hope it is. And when you get to Chapter 7, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Besides, I genuinely don't have time to spend an hour trying to figure out a puzzle. I'm glad some people do, but I'm not one of them. Note, I'm not advocating for hard games or difficult puzzles. I am, however, advocating for settings and options that allow for a quicker and smoother game experience. Still, none of these issues stopped me from wanting to learn more and dig deeper into the game. Sure, it took longer because I had to take breaks to chill out, but I still had a great time. Sweet Carole is flawed, but so engaging. Its music pulls you along through a dark and violent fairy tale through beautifully drawn scenes as you explore across time, a dilapidated and seemingly haunted orphanage, all in an effort to find your long-lost friend. Sweet Carole still needs work, and it shows. Truth be told, though, a few quality-of-life upgrades, controls, and hints would be more than enough to potentially turn this game into one of those titles I come back to over and over again as years go by. Because don't get me wrong, I am impressed with Sweet Carole as is, but I can't help imagining what it could be with a few tweaks.